All right, deploying. This was a daunting task for me when I first started. Hopefully, you're not as ignorant as I am. You'll be able to kind of flow through this easily. But essentially, it's this: you just need a machine connected to the internet somewhere where you can put your application in and run that application. Most of the times, there's lots of services where you can do this. I'm going to show you the route of self-hosting because well, if you're anything like me, you're spinning up a bunch of toy projects or kind of ideas into projects, and the last thing you want to do is to pay 10 euros per month per bad idea that I have to have this running somewhere else, right? So instead of 10 euros per application, we're going to pay 10 euros for one server that you can run a bunch of applications in, right? And this thing then can serve you to do a lot of things. You don't even have to pay anything. Actually, you can have your own server at home. And when I see server, it sounds like when I first started this, I thought, okay, man, this must be a big machine with kind of a data center type of thing. No. It can be really anything. Like PewDiePie did something with just his Android phone, was kind of serving applications for his house. Like anything that can run. Pretty much anything can be a server, right? So if you have a Raspberry Pi, an old Mac Mini, an old laptop, it can be, you can run all that. We're going to do a bit of a standard route here, just have a server in the cloud. That's going to be Hetzner. And then we're going to use this application here called Coolify to make it easier for us to deploy there. Because whenever you're deploying, all you need is some way to get to the computer and make that remote computer do something, pull the code, compile the code and get it ready to serve your app, right? And then Coolify just makes all of that a bit easier. They talk about their alternative to Vercel, Heroku, Railway, and all these things here. They do offer a cloud offering, but just note, it's kind of more of a note to self. This does not include a server, so you have the Coolify instance, but you have nowhere to deploy it, so you still have to have a server. So that's why we can just go the self-hosted route. If you go to their documentation here, they even have a deal with Hetzner. So this is a German cloud server that you can just click on it and go to it, and you get some 50% off for a couple of months, whatever it is, the deal. But I'm already a client already, so it's not valid to me. That's why you see this, and then you already have a project here, so with the server running, and I have a very standard one with 4 vCPU, 8 gigs. It's like way too much, but it's only about 13 euros per month, which is not bad for what I get. I could do, I could find cheaper, but well, this is fine enough, easy enough for me to do, right? So if you follow these instructions here, and the installation now is super easy. I think even at Hetzner there was you just click here and you kind of get it deployed right away, right? So as soon as you do that, you have it running, and at some point you should get to your Coolify instance that's going to look something like this. Right, so this is going to be your dashboard. So let's get started on deploying our application. All right, so we're here in Coolify, and I have here a bunch of projects, but you should have probably none if you're just starting now. But all we need to do is to add one in here, tutorial.ex, and that's gonna create that project for us, create an environment. I mean, the environments here, I think of just like Bubble has the live environment, the test environment. We can have the same here. Well, we're just going to stick to the production for the moment. And then we're going to add resources. Resources are going to be the different, applications that we're going to run in here. An application, I mean, the database and application, the application itself is an application. We're going to have a collab server for the rich text editor. That's going to be an application. We're going to have also an S3 type of storage. That's going to be an application, right? So we're going to have all that in here. So first thing, the database. This is a nice thing about Coolify is that you come in here and there's lots of templates of stuff for you to run in here. For instance, the famous one, N8N. You can just one-click deploy here and have it running, right? We're just going to go here the easy route. We're going to get a database, a Postgres. We're going to point to the, I have a couple of servers. We probably only have one here, the local host or whatever the machine you're having it. Click that and then just choose the one you want. You know, if you know Supabase, you know, like you can run that too. That's a bit bigger, consume a bit more resources. So I'm going to stick to this one. Voila. Now we have the template. Everything is filled out. You can pretty much just, I normally just change the name here, and then I deploy it, right? As soon as you deploy it, it's going to pull the images and generate it. Voila, and the database is running. And you can see here the logs, so every one of the stuff that you have running in Coolify, you have the logs, the terminal, and some other options here. So, and here you even have the possibility to stream the logs, or you know, not show the timestamps, blah blah blah. Right. So everything is here. Then, if you know your way around PSQL, you can kind of jump in here. You're in the server, so you can get to the database and run commands directly in it, right? All right, so we got that going. Now, what we need is to come in here, and then we're going to need to add another resource, and that's going to be our application, right? And this one is going to be, we're going to do it via GitHub, right? And then we're going to deploy on the server here, localhost, and then, in here, if you have nothing, you're going to create a GitHub app, and it walks you through everything. And I'll just imagine that we got to that point, and you're here, somewhere like this, or you are in the GitHub phase here, the GitHub interface, and you're creating your keys and so on. First thing is that in the repositories, we're not going to have this well, I have a bunch of my other failed tutorials here, but you're not going to have the project here. So we need to, put that in the cloud. All right. So then what we need to do is to create the project in GitHub so that Coolify can pick it up from here, right? So let's do that. The first thing we need to do is to create a repository. So I'm just going to go here. Let's see, I'm the owner. Tutorial EX. I will keep it private for now, and then we're just going to create this repository. Right. So, and here it has a few things for us. It says like, if you had no Git running, you run this stuff. Since we have Git running, we run this one. We have Git running, yeah. Whenever Ash installed this, it installed with Git. You can see that every time you open a command line, it shows something here, Git and so on. And if you go to the files here, you see like it created an initial commit with all the initial stuff, right? So what we need to do here is just copy paste that whatever commands they gave us, and that's gonna just push all of that to here, and as soon as you refresh here, you got that the project running. All right. Now we can go back to Coolify. We're gonna click on this thing here again, select repositories, and tutorial EX should show up here. Voila! So we added that to the list. And now it redirected us somewhere else. We want to go back here, and let's just refresh this. And then we should see the tutorial EX here, right? So we're going to load that. And the first thing here is like, we have to choose how we're going to deploy this. Right now we have nothing. Our intention is to do it with Dockerfile, but there is no Dockerfile in the repository, right? So we're going to have to create that. And to create that, we're going to use the magic of Phoenix. deploy release Docker, one of these things, right? Yeah, deploy with releases, right? So what we're going to do here is just go down here, just run this. This is going to run it's going to generate a Docker file for us with all of this information, but up to date, and we can use that to deploy. Essentially, what this is doing is like automating you going to a machine, installing. Let's see here. We're going to install. There we go. Like we're going to install this a computer with this server. We're going to apt-get, so we're going to go to the app store of that Linux distribution, install all of the kind of utilities that you need, create a directory, copy this stuff and run these commands and so on. Just doing a bunch of stuff that you do kind of every time that this deploys. It's like it has a brand new computer that it installs just what you need and your application to run it. And that's what a Docker file does. It just makes this stuff like deploying the same steps over and over again very easily. Okay, so let's first run this here. So if you just go in there, we run it, you see, like, I don't know if you saw here, but it created 3 files. And those are the files that, it's kind of the release steps. And so, and then it also should have created our Docker file. It's here somewhere. I know, it's fetching the latest information here. Okay. Still working. Some runtime error. Let's see here. All right, so we encountered the first issue here. And this is happening because I'm using Elixir 1.19.2, and apparently there's no Docker image for this. And you can navigate to the Docker Hub yourself and look for HexPM. So Hex is the package manager of Elixir, and there are some virtual images built there. And you can see here, like I'm on 19 to Elixir 19, Erlang 28, and I think there's nothing recent at that point. So what we're going to need to do is just find one that works for us, right? What we can do is, let's put here one, is there anyone with a 28.1? Yeah, see, like we just need to go to Elixir 18, and that should fix it. And to do that, that's nice to have the ASDF. Elixir set is, I forgot the command, set, voila. We can go here, Elixir, and then we put 1.18. What do we got here? 0.4. Voila. And now, I think if we run this, that's going to find the well, it's finding the information. It needs is recompiling the application here. All right, it finished running, and you can see this is where it was getting choked up previously. So, but this time it found at 1.18, it found something, and it was able to create the Docker file. So if you open Docker file here, you see exactly the kind of the same thing here, the instructions on how to deploy it and how to build it and so on. All right, so we got this ready. We now can just go, we can go here, git add. We're going to add everything, git status. So we see all the files that have just been added. The other one, just for you to know, is like the Docker, the 2 versions. So this one is just kind of a configuration file for your environment to do this. By the way, a lot of these dot blah 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 are just, most of them are configuration files, right? So you're going to get some different repos that have hundreds of them. It's just a bunch of configuration for different tools running that repo. So just a note to self mostly, because I didn't know this for a long time. All right, so git status, and then what we want to do is git commit, and we can, can do git commit like this. And if you know Vim motions, you can just kind of type in here and say, okay, initial Docker file creation, right? Then you can hit escape, :WQ, and then it's going to save it, and that has been uploaded. Or you can do it via this kind of the Git panel here, right? And then if you do a git push, hold on. Now, if you go back to our, here, you see that now there's some more files, some different notes to the Docker file, and then we can get this. Let's see here, Docker file, and let me just try this again. Refresh. We're gonna build this again. No, I want tutorial. We're going to load that repository. We're going to say we want the Docker file. Oh, that should be enough. And now, this is, because we're using Docker file, it's just going to assume, you give me a GitHub repo and you're saying it's a Docker file. I'm just going to assume you're using all the standard stuff, which is the name is Docker file. And you can see here, that's, kind of a weird convention, but it's Docker file and the capital D, and with no extension. That's the name of the file here, right? And as soon as we're going to try to deploy it, right? We're going to run into a couple of issues, but that's exactly why we're here, right? So we're going to show the debug logs. We can write the the timestamps. Well, you can see it's trying to build it. All right, so we got to the end of it, and it's saying that it's running the application, right? And then we can go to the logs themselves. Actually, we see there are a couple of errors, and this is going to be how we're going to have to figure this out here. And we can see Ecto. Ecto is the database thing. So okay. Something is happening here, right? So this is going to be, it took me a long time to realize all of these things. You could just read the documentation and avoid all the pain that I went through. But in essence, you see here that no matter if you try to go to the application over here in the links, you see you have this problem. And the problem is that, cut it short, that we haven't set up any environment variables. So let's look at the env variables, right? They are, if you go in the config, I think it's runtime production, no, runtime. Whenever the application is running, it needs a few applications. You can see here, if the configuration environment is production, it's going to be on the server here. You say, look into the system, like the machine itself, for a environment called database URL. And if it doesn't have one, raise, meaning put an error. And that's what we're seeing right here, is this error. It says, look, error, config provider failed, all this, right? So runtime error, environment variable, database URL is missing, right? So we're going to need that in order to get started, right? And so we're going to need to configure that. Let's go ahead and configure this. Where was I? So projects, tutorial. And first thing we need to do is the database. So the database URL is this one, so we can just grab it and then go back to our environment here. So this is our server, environment variables, and we're going to add an environment, and that was database underscore URL, and the variable is this one here. No. I just deleted my, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give that to me. Copy this. All right, we post it in there, and it's gonna be available. I think this is, do we need a build time? Probably, yeah. Just save it. right? And now if we go ahead and redeploy this application, we're going to see a different error after it's done. Pause this. And I think if you're following the logs here, it's just a bit hard to stay on them, but you can see that all this application is doing is running. It's running a command, docker build -- add host, and it puts a bunch of stuff in here. And the environment variable we just added, see, it's right here, database URL. It shows up right there. So it shows up in the logs, all these environments right now. There's ways to hide this in the future, but just be mindful. And this is how a lot of infiltration happens, that you're able to see the some of the plain text. This would be a username and password here for our database in the logs, right? Voila. So this is so now it has the database URL. Let's check the logs, and we'll probably have some other source of problems here. So secret key base is missing. All right, good. If you come in here, secret, voila. This is right in the beginning of the deployment there. It says, look, we are, you have to have this, the secret key base in order the application to run, right? And how can you generate one? There's a few different ways. This one is one way to do it, or you can just type some random number, but it just needs to be a long enough number. So we're going to go ahead in here, go into the environment variables, add another one, secret key base, and then we can do exactly how they said here, and that was it mix? And just run in here. That's going to give us a long number, and we just drop that in here. And if we just restart the server, that's probably that's going to pick up the latest information. And well, we should have a different type of error now. We're going to see our secret key base here somewhere. So now it's deployed, and then we're going to have a different type of errors. Missing token signing secret. Right? So, all right. So here the same thing. We need another environment variable that we need to add to here. Let's just go ahead and add this one, and then we're going to generate it just like we did this one here. Drop it in there. I need to refine this because they're not all need to be available build time, but let's go ahead and do that. Let's restart the server and see if anything happens. And sometimes whenever the deployment is happening and you go to the logs, you can see there's a couple of applications running. Anyway, so here we go, and we got the application running. Well, should still be, voila, we got it running right here, and that, the dev mailbox is no longer going to be here, but we have the basics of it all, right? And now, right, so now let's just add one more step here to the Docker file, which is going to be the one to do the migration. I just know that we're going to need this. We're going to be changing the database, and anytime we deploy it, we could do to tell the database to migrate to the new version manually, or we can just do it via here. And so for that, I have here on a different project, And all we're going to do is, something like this, which is that, instead of running this, just this command here, we're going to run shell, and we're going to run the migration property and then the server, right? And so this way, it's going to, whenever you deploy it, it's going to, if we made some changes to the database, which we're going to do in the next one, we're going to need to implement this. So I just want to, get it done here, because I know I'm going to forget it next time, and we're going to hit it. But this one is the last step that we need, right? And as soon as we do this, well, we have another change here, so we can add this change. Let me just go in here. So we have a change. We can stage this change and say migration script. We can edit in there. We can push to our database, right? And as soon as we push it, if Coolify is properly set up out of the box here, we're going to see that there's already a deployment running, right? So as soon as you push anything to GitHub, it's going to try to run the deploy, and then it will do it all for us, right? So we just need to make sure that we're deploying it, we're pushing to GitHub in the right way. And for that, also, like most repos that have, let's say, never push it directly to production, you push it somewhere else, and then you pull that thing into the main one. And even that, you can have some protections there, some tests, and some ways to verify that everything is all right before you actually deploy it, right? So voila. All right, so that's it. We got an application in the cloud somewhere. We can access it right now. Just have a very simple link here with kind of some gobbledygook generated. We can give it a different name if we want to, but this is not the most important right now. The most important is just like, yeah, we're able to go from our development environment all the way to the cloud, all the way to our server automatically.